Well, since that tragic crash of the KC-135 over there in the western Iraqi desert, I've been contacted by a number of people who knew that I used to fly the KC-135 back in the days when I was flying in Strategic Air Command. And during that time period, I actually served in Southeast Asia in that particular war. Saw some things happen and did some things involving air refueling and some things that probably they had to go through at the particular mess they were flying in Iraq. Now, keep something in mind. It's been many years since I've been flying that particular aircraft, and things have changed. Equipment has changed. They've got certain new avionics stuff that we didn't have back in those days. And I'm just going to give you my impression, my thoughts, and my potential look through at what I think could have happened. It's subject to a lot of things going on that we don't know about yet, and hopefully we'll find out in the coming weeks, months, maybe years. Who knows? But here's the way I'm going to interpret everything that I know about what the particular situation that happened. These two airplanes took off about 45 minutes apart. They flew out of Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv and were flying for an air refueling track at night. Now, keep that in mind. They're flying at night when it's dark. So, really, what you're doing is you are flying to what is known as an aerial refueling track. It's a place in the sky. It's kind of like a gas station in the sky on the corner of one place and another place, longitude and latitude, if you will. And there is your particular spot where you're scheduled to be a gas station to serve the airplanes that need fuel. And keep something in mind. Hundreds and hundreds of aircraft are in this particular situation, this particular war, and they all need gas. You cannot fly missions without tankers. Tankers are the backbone to any particular war, any particular military situation. You got to have them. And tankers are pumping out millions, and I mean millions of pounds of gas. You take a look at what's going on in any particular situation we've been into, I can tell you millions of pounds of gas, because all these aircraft, they burn up fuel. And they're all flying, and they all got to have gas. And our job is to gas them up. The problem is that every aircraft is different. Big aircraft, small aircraft, we refuel them all, but they have different requirements. Now, let's say you get a aircraft coming up that's empty and doesn't have a whole lot of gas. All right, you may have a set speed. Our set speed is usually somewhere around 320, 325 indicated. And you're flying in a track that's roughly, about 75 miles long, 35 miles wide. So it's like a big racetrack. So you think about a horse racetrack, that's what it is. That's what you're going on. And when you reach the end of the track, you make a turn, you come back the other way around. The turn you make, normally around 25 degrees, but it varies on the aircraft that you're refueling. Each and every aircraft is different. Like I said, you get an aircraft that's not very full when it needs gas. As you fill it up, it gets heavier. The pilot flying that other aircraft, he's got to push up more power to stay with you, whatever your speed you're flying at. And the heavier he gets, the more power he's got to put into those throttles to keep up with your aircraft. And then there's other bigger aircraft you're flying. You're flying the Boeing, the B-1. It has different requirements of what it takes for fuel and what it takes to turn. There's certain aircraft that you cannot turn 25 degrees when you're making a turn to go around the circle to go back the other way. You've got to use this lesser bank because they can't handle the turn at the speed you're going at, and the fact they're getting heavier. And the heavier they fly, some of the aircraft, they got to put them on the edge of the afterburner just to keep up with you. And then there's some aircraft out there that you go at a much slower speed. There's certain aircraft out there, you got to cut your speed back just tremendously because, turboprop airplanes are particular. They can't fly at the speed that jets fly at. They got to fly a slower speed. So what's the tanker have to do? Pull the power back, get slower and slower so that aircraft can catch up with you and get fuel. And keep in mind, as you're putting fuel into it, it's getting heavier. Got to have more power to keep going. There are situations where you even have to do what is called a toboggan. It means you got to start going down a little bit downhill because that aircraft can't keep up with you. You go down and add a little airspeed. I've definitely seen that happen. All these are variables that happen in a particular flight depending upon what you're refueling. And in the FRAG order, the ATO, the air traffic order, That tells you, okay, you're going to be refueling this aircraft, this aircraft, this aircraft, whatever the aircraft that are up there, they all need gas. We are we're the Buc-ee's in the sky. Now, you go to a Buc-ee's, you're going to see they must have, 100 fueling islands, 100 places to get gas at a Buc-ee's. Or even a Kroger, they may have 10 lanes to go to. Well, airplanes can't do it that way. We can't have side-by-side lanes. Ours are stacked up. So you may have one aircraft here and another aircraft a couple of 1,000 feet higher and another aircraft a couple of 1,000 feet higher. They're all stacked up going around, servicing different aircraft. Because that's the way you do it, flying in the air. You can't have everybody flying in one lane. Doesn't work that way because it's three-dimensional flying. It ain't two-dimensional. And that's what we're dealing with. Now, we don't know what aircraft they were refueling. We don't know yet. That's something that the investigators, they know exactly what their schedule of fuel. But when they went out, what were they doing? They were flying at night. They don't have a night vision stuff. They don't know what's going on. They could have all their transmission stuff, as far as the radio transmission stuff, turned off. Now, they were not flying in the hot zone, but it doesn't matter. People want to shoot at you. That's just the name of the game. But what were they doing? What were they flying? One airplane came back. That was the Beale aircraft that came back. And keeping something else in mind. An aircraft that says it's a Beale aircraft doesn't necessarily mean it's a Beale crew flying it. In the Air Force, a crew could fly any 135. They're all the same. Standards are all the same. You jump in one, everything's the same. You jump in another, everything's the same. One was the Beale aircraft that made it home. The plane that crashed was an Andrewsburg, but they had crews from different airfields. One was a guard unit out of Rickenbacker, Ohio. That's the one that crashed. And you had people from Alabama. You had people all over the place flying because these units are made up of reservists and guard pilots. They're all doing a job they know how to do, and they're very good at it. It's just what happened in this particular situation with those two 135s. One survived. And the investigators are going to be able to talk to those folks, the surviving group, who made it back to Ben Gurion. But here's something else in mind. If you look at the flight tracking radar, you said, well, wait a minute. They came back and were flying all over the ocean in all sorts of circles. And what are they doing? They're trying to figure out how much damage they had and what airspeed they can fly. When you lose a control surface, bad things can happen. You slow down, may react to what you're doing. So my guess is there was probably another aircraft that was flying, was able to catch up to him. Could have been a fighter, looking him over, saying, okay, I see what happened, because they didn't know. People in the aircraft that got hit, they didn't know what their damage was. Somebody else had to come up and take a look at it, take a peek, saying, okay, part of your rudder's missing at the top. So then they bring the engineers in. They're talking to the air crew saying, okay, we want you to slow down to this speed. We want you to take this angle turn, try it at this speed. All these different speeds they were trying because they got to come back and land. And when you land, you get slow. 120, 130, 140 knots. You don't know what the problem was going to happen with your rudder at that speed. So bad things could happen at a slow speed. So they had to test everything out, which is what they did. And finally, when they figured out, okay, we can land this aircraft, they did. Don't know what their flap setting was, don't know what their approach speed was. That's something we'll probably find out. But whatever it was, they got the aircraft back on the ground. And those people probably got a pretty big mental issue going on right now, knowing what they've been through. Wouldn't want to go through that. Have I seen an aircraft kind of miss my airplane flying? Yeah. Scared the hell out of me, if you want to know the truth. But sometimes this happens. Now, they have TCAS, apparently, the Terminal Collision Avoidance System radar on their aircraft now. And that should tell them something coming below them or above them, terminal avoidance. That's what you want to do, not hit another aircraft. But it appears that this could have been a beak-on-beak thing. Could have been two airplanes coming together like this. One went over the top of the other one. Why? How? We don't yet know. We got one crew that can talk about it. But even they're going to be what they saw at the last moment when it happened, because it all happened in the dark at night. And that's what we're dealing with. So, will we have answers? Eventually we'll start to get answers. Eventually you'll get a preliminary report from the Air Force, and then ultimately a year, maybe 2 years down the road, you get a full report that'll come out that says everything they know. It takes time to research these, do them, write them up. And that's what's going on. So I'm just giving you the heads up as someone who used to fly that aircraft. Yes, they've changed over the years. They've got different engines on them. They got different stuff. They got glass cockpits, TCAS, but it's still an airplane. It still flies, and it still does the same job. And that job is refueling other aircraft. That's what its job was. That's what KC-135s do. And by the way, KC-135s, as a rule, there were a couple of minor exceptions that didn't even fly anymore, cannot refuel each other. They are giving only, no getting. They can't fly holding hands. It doesn't work that way, not in KCs. They just give out fuel, and they give out millions of pounds all the time. Very sad situation, very unfortunate. You hate to see this happen. But in the flying game, when you got a lot of airplanes flying, and I mean a lot of airplanes flying, in a very small particular area, you're hoping everybody is on their flight schedule, reading the exact same numbers and reading the exact same data that everybody else is supposed to know, and pray to God everybody's on the right altitude at the right time. Because if you don't, something like this can occur. And apparently it did. And now you know.